We could probably put under 2.2L.
We actually, sorry, on my agenda, I have an L, M, and an N that we're gonna add, so we'll just go
Okay.
O.
Oh, okay. And it will be Strathmore Motor Products Fieldhouse Facility, naming rights.
2.2 O.
And then I would put P would be speed limit on paved roads. P. Paved roads in the county. It's just ask for information. And I think that's it.
Okay. What do you want to title it? Okay. We're going to put that as 4.3. 4.2 in camera is going to be a fire association response. And then we had three RFDs circulated and one piece of correspondence. So we will add under 2.2L, Economic Development Board membership. Under 2.2M, we will add funding for Wheatland Housing Management Board. And under 2.2N, we'll add the Rosebud Community Enhancement Society Alberta Community Generation Capacity Building Program. They're on your RFDs. And then under correspondence, under 3.2, we'll add the Marigold Library regarding the Freedom to Read Week. Does anybody else have anything to add? If not, can we have a motion to adopt? Thanks, Scott. All in favor? Motion is carried. And just to note that our meetings may be recorded and posted on Wheatland County website or social media. We had the minutes circulated from February 5th, 2019. Did anybody see any errors or omissions? Oh, I'm sorry, Alan.
We'd like to host a planning and priorities meeting on April 4th. So if that could be just added under business arising, perhaps.
Oh, sure. Do you want to make that motion with the amendment? Yeah. All in favor? Motion is carried. Scott. Sorry about that, Alan.
Council meetings.
Thanks, Ben. All in favor? Motion's carried. We have the watch clerk position regarding funding. There was a motion made in April of 2018 to fund the position for 1 year, from May 1st to April 30th of 2019. We had information provided at our last meeting by the detachment commander regarding some statistics. Does anybody have any comments?
Well, I appreciate the update and the statistics shown by Strathmore Sergeant, but I'm not convinced that it is solely because of the watch clerks that these statistics have changed. There's multiple other effects, whether that be the economy, time of year, other issues with policing elsewhere, whether that be more just presence as for our bylaw officers. I don't see how this affects my residents at all.
Yeah, and through the chair, I think their stats, and I take stats for what they are, and I can probably find stats that'll tell you something else too, but they say it's improved. I think there's been more improvement simply because of that task force the province has put in place than through the issue with the watch clerks. And I can see I can understand their issue over here, but I can't get it through my head when we ask the other detachments, when we ask Drumheller or Brazano or Gleason, we ask them if they have any issue with that, and they don't seem to have an issue with it. So my concern is why there's an issue in some places and why there isn't others, why there isn't more. And if we do start doing that on a regular basis, it could end up costing us more in the other areas too. So I don't know. I'm on the fence.
So if we don't do this, then April 30th would be the last term. So I know that we got Rocky View in this as well, and they committed to having one. I don't know if they're having issues with it as well. I'd like to see it go at least another year. It's hard to say on 1 year what you see for difference, and I think we fought to get this here, and I'd hate to see it leave.
We're looking at one position, not three, and not, there's just the, yeah.
Currently, Wheatland County funded one position, yes, that's correct.
I'll make a motion that we proceed to 2020, I guess, for another year, the 65,000. Or for another year, then.
So just to clarify, that's from May 1st, 2019 to April 30th, 2020? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a question perhaps to Alan, and that's okay if you can't answer. Is 65 still sufficient?
Yes, I believe so.
Any further discussion?
Just as long as they don't have to lay somebody off and hire them back again. I want to avoid that.
I know I've heard really good things anecdotally, and I agree with you completely about the statistics, and even Sergeant Delaronde was pretty honest about that, like that it's hard to determine causation and that kind of thing with them. There were some trends that were shown, but anecdotally, I'm hearing from ratepayers, and certainly in my division, that the RCMP are more responsive, that they're seeing them more often, things like that. So I think it's a good program, and I agree to support it for 1 more year, and then if there's other options that we want to explore or look into, we can do that as well. Are there any other comments? There's a motion on the floor. All in favor? Motion's carried. Or opposed? Motion's carried. Sorry about that. A planning and priorities meeting?
Yes, I was wondering if council would be available to have a planning and priorities meeting on April 4th. That's a Thursday.
Does it work for everybody?
Oh, wait a minute, that's April, you say?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Bright glasses on, Ben?
Well, I'm doing mine. I can make it work, I messed up.
9 till 4, Alan? Donna, does it work for you?
It'll fit in with
Yeah, perfect. We have an RFD that was part of the package for the Cluny Rural Fire Association agreement. Oh, sorry. Can we have a motion for the planning and priorities meeting? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, now we can look at the Cluny Fire Association. Morning.
Good morning. First off, I apologize for my order address. I forgot I was coming to see you guys today. I got clothes on. I even got a collar on the shirt today, so we're good. So as you know, with Clooney, in 2017, they decided that they were going to fold the association and move under administration of the county. Staff has been working diligently to get an agreement in place for the transfer of assets, and it's been a long and interesting road, to say the least. But we're finally there, and we have the agreement signed by their association, and we're looking for authorization for the REEV and the CAO to sign off on the transfer of assets.
Just a question on the building. Sorry, I know it's probably not the time to ask, but how's remediation going?
I know we have the building opened up on the inside. A lot of drywall came out, and we're looking at a few of the studs and minor repairs. I don't have the number yet. I know Mike has been working with, who's that? Dennis? I'm still learning names, so
That's okay.
Mike and Bryce have been working away on that.
And we're replacing that drywall or no?
We have to get a
It'll
final.
be coming back on February 27th, the committee of the whole, with the actual cost of the rehabilitation, now that it's all been stripped down. So you'll know that, and I believe, I wasn't at that meeting, but I believe council made a motion not to exceed 25,000, so we'll be bringing that back, so you guys know exactly where it is. Pardon? February 27th, the committee of the whole meeting. Mike says he'll have the information ready. It's just about ready, but not quite yet, so.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll make the motion.
Through the chair, if I could. The Clooney Association was supposed to be here this morning, and they still very may well come. We don't have the land transfer done. It's signed and done. They wanted to see you make a motion to accept this, and then they'll bring the land transfer forward. So it has been signed, but they wanted to present it themselves.
All right, thank you.
I'll move that council approve and authorizes the REEV and CAO to sign under corporate seal the asset transfer agreement, providing acquisition by Wheatland County of the RFA in Clooney, ownership interest in the assets and land subject to the term, covenant, and conditions contained within the agreement, including but not limited to a copy of the creation of the Clooney Fire Department Capital Reserve, B, the general conveyance agreement for the vendor's interest and assets, C, acknowledgement of the termination of the existing agreements between the CFPA and Wheatland County.
Any discussion?
Could you repeat that?
There's no questions. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. We have an RFD regarding the fire master plan.
Through the chair, before we go into that one, under this last one, could we also draft a letter from council through the REEV to the Clooney Fire Department, thanking them for their years of service, and that's a great idea. And you know, that, and give it to them at the same time that they come in and do the land transfer type thing, make it a. I'll put that on as a motion that we do that. Put a letter together to thank them for all their years of.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Fire master plan.
So apparently, on November 16th of last year, a presentation was made at the Planning and Priorities meeting to council regarding having a fire master plan completed, and an RFD was requested to be brought forth to council for decision. Historically, we had a fire services review done in 2013 with a number of recommendations for implementation, but it's not an actual fire master plan as per se. So I wasn't here for this portion, but apparently council requested that this come back as an RFD in the future.
Is there any discussion? We need a motion.
Just to note, it is in the budget, has been included in the budget for 2019 and 2020.
Thank you.
I think the anticipation is we would complete in 2020.
In the terms of reference, I think there's a timeline on page 25 and 26. I do have one question. On page 23, and then further into the terms of reference, under purpose, it says it will also recommend a variety of service models to best suit the needs of public safety in Wheatland County. I was just wondering if council's will is to be looking at alternative service models to what we're currently utilizing with our mix of fire associations and municipal departments. Well, under the purpose of the Fire Master Plan, it states that it will also recommend a variety of service models to best suit the needs of public safety in Wheatland County. And then further, I believe that's reiterated further on. Maybe not. I didn't mark it. Anyways, I was just wondering if that's council's direction. The last line under purpose.
It says there's lots of public engagement, so I think we'd be okay to bring in those ideas up and let the public have their.
You don't think that the associations themselves should have input as an association rather than just a public?
The associations aren't specifically mentioned. Fire department members are. But I mean, it said will include but not be limited to, so they could fall under other stakeholder groups. I wouldn't mind seeing fire association specifically or like specified as a stakeholder that would be consulted or involved in the public engagement. Is that to staff? Do you want to use your microphone, Ben? Sorry. I'll just state my comment, I guess. Personally, I believe that the service model that we're utilizing now with the combination of fire associations as well as municipal run departments where necessary works well. I certainly would want to be very clear from my perspective that I don't want to see a service model that doesn't integrate our fire associations unless that's their decision. I just wanted to be clear about my position on that.
Yeah, I think they need to be involved in any changes are coming down the pipe, but if there's, the demographics, if the demographics of the population change, things naturally, but I don't know how. You talk provincial and federal legislation, if there's some of that comes down, that's just that's a given. You should, how you, if it comes down, it comes down, and we're sorry, but that's the way it is. That's there, and if there's a change, you've got to adapt to the change, or I don't know how you.
Can I ask a question? Because it says municipal partners. So fire associations are municipal partners, I believe. And talks about fire department members. So I think it's all covered in there unless I'm missing something.
Okay. With municipal partners, I was thinking like the villages or the town, things
Yeah,
like that.
would
but
include the
we have an
villages and the
agreement
town
with
too,
fire
but-
associations. For me, the more the difference is if we're out, and part of it is perception, because from what I've been told, and I've had comments made, that there is a perception that people in the public or our fire associations may be under the impression that the county is moving towards a fire service model that does not include fire associations, and I want our council to be clear on whether that's the direction we're going in or not. And that's why where there's a difference between keeping up to legislation or if there's attrition of an association because of lack of volunteers or things like that, versus we're seeking a service model or options for service models that are different than what we currently have.
We're not actively looking for that, but to say that we won't go there, we've already gone there. We've already done that.
How so?
Well, Strathmore, Gleason, Clooney, they're not associations anymore.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about, like a combined service model. But if we're looking at a different, what it says, it will also recommend a variety of service models. I was just posing the question if that's what we're looking for. If that's what council is interested in, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to state my position.
I don't mind looking at different service models because of the history of what Ben was just talking about. We've gained more because associations have failed or basically lost interest. And if that trend keeps going, we have to look at, kind of covering those bases. I don't think it's a bad thing, and if they perceive it as a different way, and we've got the history to show that we've already gained a few that we didn't necessarily want, but we're left to provide that service, irregardless. So that's how I perceive it.
Yeah, and I don't think our associations have failed us. They've done a good job up until now. It's the way of the world. Things are changing. Every community out there has more trouble finding volunteers. It doesn't matter what it's for. And every time you turn around, there's more rules and regulations, so that it means more. A lot of these guys don't have the time. They don't have and that's the problem we're running into right now is the volunteer time and the regulations that they have to follow, the rules that they have, the training they have to put in place. Eventually, and I'm not saying within the next year or 2 years, but eventually we will be looking at a full fire service. It's just the way I've seen it happening for 30 years. It's slowly rolling over and slowly, that's got nothing against the guys that are out there doing the job right now. It's just that they don't have the time to do, because society will demand eventually that we go that way.
Jason?
So
I think we, just because we're looking at other options does not mean we don't support how our fire service is built. I agree that our system is the best for us, and I don't want to see it change. But I want to see, you never know until you look. And maybe there's a better way yet to work with our associations. There's other ways to look at associations as well, whether we bring them on in a different aspect or I just think it's worth looking at. And to say that they're working up until now, I see the opportunity that we have with our fire associations. They are some of our best run halls in the county, if not the best run halls in the county. And I don't think that'll change. So I don't want to see that lost. And I think there is still a lot of life left in those that are still there.
And I guess I'll just respectfully disagree that it's inevitable that we would lose the associations. We do have some very viable, vibrant associations that, from when I look at their volunteer lists, they have, you know, good volunteer retention, recruitment. They do have some younger firefighters. So I'll respectfully disagree with that statement. But it sounds like consensus is that we would like to accept the RFD as presented. Do we have a motion? Thanks, Donna. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you for coming in. We have an RFD regarding the accounts payable electronic funds transfer to vendors. Alan, did you want to speak to this at all?
No, nothing further to add than what's in the request for decision.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding the RFD? Can we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the accounts payable electronic fund transfer to vendors report as information.
Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have an RFD regarding the Rural Caucus meeting. There was a call for agenda items. Does anybody have anything that you would like me to take forward? So this is a meeting of the mayors and reeves that are in the Edmonton Growth Management Board and the Calgary Growth Management Board, and it will be at RMA. There's no items. We will move on to the strategic priorities update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a brief presentation in regards to priorities update that Mackenzie's put together for me. So I'll just kind of go through that. It's on the screen. Oh, yeah. Capital projects. So at the end of 2018, 80% of the capital projects were completed. And that includes purchase of equipment and commandeering of any land purchases and things like that that were included in the budget, as well as road projects. 12% are in design stage and 3% were under construction. There was one project that we were working on one road where we're doing some culverts over the winter, so that one continues. And then 5% are in tender and purchase. So that's kind of the year-end status. The 2018 priorities that were identified: economic development strategy, service capacity review, road plan priorities, dust control, and Gleason school options. For this point, most of those, actually all of those, were completed at this point. In progress, the intermunicipal development plans and intermunicipal collaboration frameworks, we are in progress on those. Intermunicipal development plans, we are well over 60% completed those, and the intermunicipal collaboration frameworks about 20% complete. Review and update municipal development plan and regional growth management strategy. That project has not started. Utility cost recovery. Some work had been done on that. At this point, I guess we're still waiting for WRC's kind of final numbers, and I believe they have a meeting tonight that they're going to discuss a little bit more in the budget. So hopefully we'll have a little bit more information in regards to that. Recreation, parks, and facilities plan, terms of reference, has been developed, and crime prevention is an ongoing priority. So this is just the status report that's included in the council package. What's next? Water system expansion. So what we need to do is on 2019's and 2020 is work on the municipal development plan, revisions and updates to that. We've heard some great feedback from council on some changes that need to be made there. Included in that would be the regional growth management strategy, which is a considerably older document. It hasn't been worked on for quite some time. And then linked into that would be utility cost recovery through an offsite levy process. And then water system expansion, so we have serviced land available. We were successful in getting a CARES grant to fund doing a inventory of all the existing businesses in the county. So that'll get our economic development officer up and running when they come on board in hopefully May. Agricultural strategy will also tie into this. And council, we've talked with council about before about all these plans kind of intertwining. So that's the presentation.
Just a question, Alan. And this was my other addition, but it's lucky it fits in here. On the crime prevention, could I just ask staff to have a report done up on the Tabor police system?
Yes, you'd mentioned that before, Councillor Wilson. So I have talked with Stuart and he's going to do some research. Actually, he's meeting with Tabor on Friday, I believe. He's got a meeting there. So we'll get some information together in regards to their costs, their complement officers, challenges they've seen and things like that. As we know, the RCMP, I understand, are unionizing, so that might change the service costs and levels as well as they move forward. So we're not sure what that's going to mean.
RCMP is the worst organization in Alberta.
Alan, one question about the capital projects. When you're doing the percentages, is it based on number of projects or capital funding?
It's based on number of projects. So we determine, so some of the smaller projects, like if we're purchasing computers and that, we don't include there. It's basically projects that are over $50,000 or more. And then what we have is our, mainly our transportation staff track where they're at on the different processes. So in consultation with the communications officer, we felt that we would remove the inactive component because it kind of skews the results. So you'll notice then that the results moving forward, we won't show inactive in there. So
would it be possible to have it presented as capital funding expenditure as well?
Sure.
That'd be
yeah,
great.
we could certainly do
If
that.
council's okay with that?
Yeah, it's not based on the dollar amount though, it's based on the projects. So if there's 200 projects, it just means 80% of those projects
Right.
are completed.
Yeah.
So is that clear? So we could also do it on the actual amounts expended to the year.
That's what I was wondering, if we could just so we're kind of tracking that
Okay.
quarterly.
Yeah, I'll talk to Brian on that because he tracks that through his reports, but he doesn't actually show you what the capital expenditures are. He just kind of shows you year to date what's been expended. So I'll get him to break that out for sure. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We need a motion to accept the strategic priorities. Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have a discussion item, the blanket exercise initiative that we were approved for.
Yes, so Madam Chair, I did talk with the town of Strathmore and they did receive funding for the blanket exercise as well. So we will be getting further details on this program, I'm told, in March. And I'm not sure when it'll take place yet. They have quite a number of them to do. So it's a joint project between RMA and AUMA. So what I understand is AUMA may be taking the lead on this project, so we may be working with the AUMA people. So I have let the villages know. As you recall, we had two villages, Rockyford and Standard, that were interested, and Hazara wasn't interested at the time, but I still kept the door open for them to participate as well. So as it moves forward, I'll keep council updated. So
Excellent. Thank you for the update. There's an RFD regarding the CSMI Master Agreement Amendment. This is basically just adding another year onto our agreement. I do have one comment regarding CSMI. we have been approached by 2 municipalities. Good morning. Just to have a meeting regarding the CSMI. So, but that can be done in the near future. Are there any questions about the current agreement?
Should we hold off on this until we have discussions with other municipalities?
From my discussion with them, they were still signing the 1-year agreement. It was more a long-term kind of
Okay.
discussion that they would like to have.
Fair enough.
If there's no questions, can we have a motion? Thanks, Donna. Is there any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. We have an RFD regarding the new directional drilled culvert. Anybody have any questions regarding it? We have a motion.
Just for in curiosity, is that a lining going in the existing one or going over top, or is it, when they put in one like that, how's that done?
So it's a directional drill in a new location.
It's a new location.
Yeah, so essentially it's right beside where the existing culvert would be.
So what do they do with the old one? If it's collapsing, will that still?
They'll just seal it off once the project's done.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So is this like out of budget then? Is that why we're doing this?
That's correct.
Okay, fair enough. I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Thanks, Scott. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. There's an RFD regarding the public participation plan for road paving and chip sealing landowner meetings.
Is this enough, or do we want to?
My question is,
Related to that, though, if I'm understanding this correctly, this would be public engagement once the decision has been made to do a transportation project.
So this fits in with the new public participation policy that council adopted last year. So this is a new thing that we haven't done in the past, so.
so my question then is, because usually before we pave a road, they have to be rebuilt. One way or the other, they're either upgraded, rebuilt, whatever. That's when we go back into the landowners for backsloping, dirt. All those agreements are made in place. Isn't that the time when you talk to them about the future of that road as far as paving that, rather than waiting 6, 8, 10 years and then coming back saying, oh, by the way, because usually when we go into pave, we don't need to go back into there. We're just working within the road, our road jurisdiction. We don't need to worry about going back in there because we've already done all that. So my question is, why are we creating another? Because we already do this for rebuilding roads, right? If the roads need any work at all before we get to the paving, we already do this process. We just need to expand on it a little bit rather than have two separate. That's.
I understand what you're saying, but some of the upgrades that have been done, or suggestions, I guess, would be at the will of council. And from previous plans I've seen, it's changed a few times. So nothing's ever finalized till it's finalized, I guess. A year ahead, but then you gotta give them
I understand. What I'm getting at is, when we rebuild a road, when we go out there, when we do rebuild roads, The idea is to rebuild them so that if in the future we ever go in there to do it, they're built to that standard. We don't build 2 grades of road. We used to. We used to have what did we used to call it? It was a secondary road that we could not go in and pave because it was not built to a paving standard. All the roads that we're building now are built to that standard that we can go in there at a later date and put a surface on it. And all the pre-work to that has been done with the landowners, the land acquisition, all that stuff has been done. At that time, we should be talking to them and saying, you realize, of course, if we do all this, 10 years, 20 years from now, there may be pavement through here. Have you got any issues with it? Rather than set up another, to me, it doesn't, maybe I'm maybe like Jason, like holding hands sometimes. But
My fear is that could backfire, though, if you say that any of the work that we do could end up with the possibility of a paved road. The landowner may say, we don't want that road upgraded.
it's not their choice.
Well, they won't let you use the back sloping, like they won't let you, when you do the initial work. Like if you're saying if we do that at initial construction to bring the base up, and there may be a possibility of that, I know some of them that I've talked to recently would say they would have never allowed it in the first place. So it's kind of a backfire, like there's got to be a happy medium there somewhere. I don't understand.
This is just to make sure it fits in our public participation
For sure.
policy. Keep that debate maybe for 10 o'clock or 10:30 perhaps.
I like that we're letting people know because, and I've recently heard, a lot of people from the previous plans 3 years ago that live adjacent to this had no idea. And I didn't realize that was the case. So I think if we have a way of notification of the people that are affected, whether or not they have a say, which they always do, I think we need to do that at the very least.
So the RFD that is before us is more focused on the MGA requirements for public participation. And I completely agree that council needs more discussion on what we're going to do with public engagement in the planning or prior to the decision-making process. This is for more to fulfill, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, the MGA requirement to.
Yeah, that's more to fulfill the county's own public participation policy, which the new one came into play in 2018, so.
Right. So if we're comfortable with this for like kind of an awareness type meeting once the decision has been made, and then we can have further discussion about what kind of engagement or consultation we would like to see happen, either when we're looking at our transportation plans or when we're in that decision-making process. Because I think that needs to be, personally, I believe that needs to be a priority as well.
Against public participation and notifying them, I just think sometimes I'm not.
Can we have a motion to accept?
I move that the council approve the public participation plan template presented.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Because we said we would do item J at 10 o'clock, let's move down to 2.2L, the Economic Development Board membership.
Madam Chair, I'll speak to this because this is an addition. I'm happy to advise that we did receive 4 applications to sit on the Economic Development Board. The application ceased on Friday, February 15th. And we are recommending, staff are recommending that Betty Jansen and Tracy Cornett stay on the Economic Development Board up until October 31st, 2019. Of course, they can be renewed at that time. And that 2 new members, Terry Kinsman and Krista Ailman, are appointed April 1st, 2019 to October 31st, 2020 to sit on the Economic Development Board.
Thank you, Alan.
I just have a question. If there's issues with the board member, can we ask them to leave the board?
That's always a possibility. Council can certainly remove anybody from any board at any time.
Is it just a motion?
There would have to be some discussion on why, and that would come from the board. And so if it was this board in particular or in any other board, it should come from the board saying that they would like somebody excused.
I make a motion that the council reappoint Betty Jane Jansen and Tracy Cornett and add on Terry Kinsman and Krista Ailman into the Economic Board.
For the terms as presented? Yes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to 2.2M, funding for the Wheatland Housing Management Board business plan. So there's an RFD with contribution up to a maximum of $15,000. Does anybody have any questions? If not, a motion? Thanks, Jason. All in favor? Motion is carried. There was an RFD circulated regarding the support for the Rosebud Community Enhancement Society in regards to their application for a community generation capacity building grant.
So, Madam Chair, I received this on Saturday, and in consultation with the Deputy Reeve, brought this forward on behalf of the Rosebud Community Enhancement Society. They would like to apply for the Community Generation Capacity Building Grant through the province of Alberta. There is a brief that's been attached, and hopefully Council's had an opportunity to review that. I think it would be a good opportunity for the community of Rosebud to look towards the use of this grant to become energy self-sufficient.
Excellent, thank you. Council's wishes.
I'd like to move that we provide a letter of support and to the application for a community generation capacity building grant for the community of Rosebud.
Any questions or discussion?
There is a letter to be signed, and I do have the letter here, so is that part of your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks, Alan. We'll go to 2.20, Strathmore Motor Products Fieldhouse naming. There was a document circulated. Has everybody had a chance to look at it?
I can give you guys a
Councillor
minute
Wilson?
if you'd like to read.
Can we take maybe a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Is that okay? Sorry, Jason. I don't
We'll come back to this. We'll take a break until 10 a.m. We'll come back, if you're okay with that. Oh, he's just waiting for some paperwork. Administration has circulated some, or as part of our package, has some information on the background of Range Road 244. We also had a presentation regarding this road and letters circulated at a previous council meeting. So on behalf of my ratepayers in Division 2, I believe we had 6 letters that were circulated at our previous meeting. The reason that this was brought to council is that this road project has been on the list for over 20 years. Ratepayers were anticipating construction at some point. They did have a previous councillor out to the area as well as senior administration that visited the site and were discussing some of the construction plans. It was approved and on our road construction plan for the 2019 season. When the short road program was integrated into the other transportation programs, this road was not transferred into any of the other, like any of our road plans that we approved during our last transportation plan. That wasn't, to the best of my knowledge, communicated to us as council or to the ratepayers. And I've heard from a lot of ratepayers that are frustrated both with our process and with the decision to remove that road from our transportation plan. So I asked that it be brought back just for a council discussion. The ratepayers would like a decision to be made so that they can make plans. We have one egg producer that's been in the area for decades, and they have a future generation of egg producers that would like to settle and start farming their land, and their building of their homes would be contingent on this road. Discussion?
I would say, my opinion would be if it was on the, like you said, if it was on the plan for years and we had it already set, and it wasn't a conscious decision at council to specify that road be taken out, which I believe it was not, that we should honor that. Because there was a lot of thought process put into there from before, and thought about this a lot, and it should be. I think we should do it.
I would put a motion on the floor that council reintegrate the construction of the section of Range Road 244 that was on our previous road plan and be integrated into the budget for 2019. Discussion,
Can I ask a question on that?
of course.
So when you say in 2019, is that design or is that, because?
I guess maybe even if we could get some advice from administration on a timeline that would be feasible.
Sure. Thank you. So through the chair, the design of this, so far there's been about $1,500 put into this program right now. We have a preliminary preliminary survey done. There was no design completed on this road, so we would go back out and have to start preliminary design. There's wetlands within this road allowance, so we'd have to do a wetland assessment and pay compensation, all that sort of thing. So likely we wouldn't get approval for that until later this year, early next year, before we could even put that on the road program. Earliest is probably summer of 2020 that we could be able to start construction on this.
And will that bump back any planned projects at the moment?
So through the chair, I would bring back a revised budget looking at the amount of miles that we have on the plan this year and see if there's any that could be moved forward. I would ask that council review the 10-year road program before the 2019 final budget is approved, just to ensure that you're aware of the changes that may happen because of this road added. Yep, that's correct.
Any further discussion or questions?
Sorry, I missed the meeting when you guys were discussing that, so I think I know where you're talking about. It's the entire mile or just a portion of that mile that's?
Through the chair, it'll likely be just short of a mile there. Looking at just past the, if we have a map there, just past the abandoned rail line is where we would extend that.
Oh, I got, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I guess that's a little bit over a mile, looks like. We'd have to look at the survey and see for sure.
Yeah.
Before we Your motion says start construction as soon as possible. I'm okay with putting it back onto the road program itself, but I can't say that I would be moving it forward as soon as possible. Just, I would like to see the roads that would be affected and other priorities, longer roads, higher, well, it wouldn't take much to be higher car count. I want to prioritize these roads. So I would like to, if you would amend your motion to take away a time limit and just put it back on the road program, and then we could discuss it when we review the road program itself.
Yeah, through the chair, if Mike has said we've spent some money on that on engineering, doesn't sound like a lot, but if we're gonna put it back on the road program, we should be giving it back to staff to look at it and do a review of it, find out what the costs are, bring back the environmental impacts, whatever that takes, and give us a timeline as to where that sits within, whether it's a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, then we can take a look at it. The fact is, you want to get it back on the program, not, and I don't have a problem getting it back on the program as long as we don't push it and something else gets lost along the way that's already in the queue. And if the time they bring that information back, if it deems that they can let us know if it deems it needs to be moved up into the 3-year or 5-year, then fine, I don't have an issue with that. But
I respect what you guys are saying about other roads being lost in the queue, but this road has been on the queue for 23 years. So looking at like the short project road program that was presented to us in January, there were only a few, like they're just very small short sections of road, obviously. I realize that that's been integrated into our major construction program, but yeah, if we could get information brought back, what I am looking for is a solid commitment from council to these ratepayers that have been told repeatedly year after year that this would become a priority at some point. Then they understood it had become a priority, was approved, and then that changed. So, can you repeat the amendment?
Margaret, can you repeat it?
I guess into the, like the road plan or transportation plan, with it being, with work for the road being budgeted in the 2019 final budget.
with consideration on the work that's already been done on that road
Yes.
that's not a new road, it's one that was on there and it's been.
And then Margaret, do you have Jason's proposed amendment?
I would ask you to amend it to not start 2019, but we will commit to have it on the 10-year road program, as I want to see and prioritize the next 5 years.
Can administration speak to the impact that this relatively short section would have on the construction program?
So through the chair, there might be a challenge in putting a priority to this road or prioritizing because it was removed from the program based on priority. So if council feels that it is a different effect to it rather than traffic counts or servicing area, if they'd like to see it added on here, I'd ask that we move some of the roads in 2019 to move this priority because we won't be able to fit it in a prioritized state right now looking at the roads we have planned for the next 5 or 10 years.
And that's why I think we need to have a discussion on the roads we prioritize. I can't spend 600,000 because there's somebody wanting a road done. I need to prioritize which roads have to be done prior to this. I cannot commit to starting next year on a study. I need to look at all of the projects we have across the county and prioritize those.
Could you, would you be willing to remove the 219 construction year and put something in there to the effect that for the 10-year road construction program with administration looking at the priority of the
I think she already has an amendment on the floor.
Jason did propose that. I'm not going to accept the amendment, and my concern with the amendment is I understand administration, and I appreciate that we're moving towards a road program that is based on rationale and the factors like traffic counts and service area and prioritizing that way. My concern with this road, and we've had a few, in my mind, kind of hiccups around process, and that the fact that this was committed to, even by our council, we had approved it, and no rationale was given for taking it off of the road. My concern is that these people will be living in this state of limbo and not knowing whether it will be prioritized or not. And that's why I'm bringing forth a request for at least work to start. I understand with the environmental approvals that it obviously can't be completed until those are done. But if we can commit to proceeding with the construction of the road once those approvals are in place.
To admin, what kind of cost will we acquire by moving back the certain projects that we will have to? Like what was the cost of the studies on those projects that will be moved? Sorry, if that makes sense.
So through the chair, we would continue to complete the designs. We're looking to have shelf-ready projects for the next 3 years, so we would continue to have landowner meetings, do designs on all the other roads that were on the plan here. This one, so we wouldn't be able to do the wetland assessment or do any of the valuations on costs and that until midsummer, after we had the May start to that done. So we could have a firm price on what this road would cost by August, I'd say, in time for a review of the next year's road plans. At that time, council could look at it and see if that's still.
Sorry, maybe I probably didn't communicate well.
Oh, sorry.
What's the cost of the roads that we have, the projects we have on the go for 2019? What's the cost of the studies for that? And we'd be moving those to 2020, if that makes sense. Probably not.
No, sorry, through the chair, because we would still continue to do those plans. I mean, as far as the designs are typically around 20 or 30,000 for a 4-mile stretch, so per mile. Like this would be about 10,000, 12,000 to do a design on survey, and then probably another 8 to 10 for the wetland assessment and that sort of thing. To get this ready to make a decision on cost for this one per mile is around 20, 25,000. So does that help answer your question? Or I mean, it's unclear because there's a few.
I'm not worried about the cost of this. I'm thinking, how much cost are we pushing on the following years? Like, what have we already spent on the current projects, not this one?
And that I wouldn't know. But like I said, we would continue to do those projects because we need to have them ready for the next years. The mile here, we'll have to shift a few things around if we were to do this, but it wouldn't remove any of the other.
But I would just like to see those projects that are being shifted around before I commit to funding this in the next year. And I mean, I don't think that's too much to ask. I'm not saying I won't, but I have to see the other projects we're bumping out of the way.
So while you're looking for that, so according to what Mike's saying, we're still moving ahead with the projects that are in place. This is in addition to, so there would have to be some funding picked up somewhere to deal with it once the numbers came in. And I don't know, would you even have those, all those numbers in place by this summer, or would they go into 2020? Before you had all the numbers together to go ahead with?
Through the chair, for this 244 road, likely we'd know by the end of the year what it would cost to construct. We would have the wetland approval assessments and that sort of thing.
So then it would be in 2020 before there was?
Through the chair, it would have to. We would
Yeah,
not be
it
able
would
to
be in
complete
yeah.
this road in 2019. It would be a far stretch. Correct.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Because our next scheduled item is scheduled for 10:30, let's move to the circulated. I believe, can we just clarify with our staff, Mr. Nelson is just waiting for these documents, or did he want to present to council at this point? Okay. No, thank you. I understood he was just waiting for my signing. Good morning, Mr. Nelson. If you can just state your name.
Dave Nelson. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Mr. Nelson will be receiving the Cluny Fire Protection Association transfer agreements, and then he'll be providing the land agreements to council once these are completed. Jason, do you want to speak to the information that you circulated?
Yep. So we've discussed this with Strathmore before, and we've both agreed that it has to be a mutual decision on the naming of the field in the field house. And I believe that we can come up with an idea that is both supported by the town, hopefully. So I will present my idea for the naming of the field, which I think it really fits well with the situation we're in. There's a lot of different ethnic cultures in the county and in the province, but I think it's really important to showcase one of the biggest influencers and largest amount of population of the various cultures. The Scottish and Irish and Welsh culture, the Celtic culture, one may say, makes up 36% of all Albertans. And they have had a great deal of influence on our society today, whether that be naming of municipalities such as Strathmore, Canmore, Calgary, and other sporting events, field hockey, curling, and also common family traditions like ourselves. And there's no doubt in my mind that we wouldn't be here today without those settlers that risked everything and came across the ocean and a new country to have the opportunity that they did in the West. And I don't think we recognize those cultures enough, those settlers enough. We always tend to look at history in a bad light. We recognize always the mistakes we've made in the past, but never the people that have laid the foundation for society today. And with that being said, with such a strong partnership between Golden Hills, the town, and Wheatland County, I can't think of a better way to recognize the history and the partnership than to name the field in the field house, Strathmore Motor Products field house, the Core Field, which is Irish Gaelic. The word core is Irish Gaelic for mutual assistance, working together in shared motive or partnership. And I'm looking for council support in that name so I can go on to present this to Strathmore. So I think it really showcases the work the municipalities and the organization has worked together, just as many settlers in the early 1800s and 1900s did in the area. So just looking for council support. Thank you.
Thank you for preparing this and presenting it. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Wilson?
No, I think it's a good idea. They're looking for names. That's as good a name as any of them, and your history on it is right. It's, I don't see anything wrong with it. Send it in, see what happens.
I would agree. You did good work on it. Got a good background. Definitely gives them an idea that maybe they didn't have before. And an idea from this organization is actually really good. So do you need a letter then, basically signed?
Yeah, letter and motion.
Would you consider the IPA spelling, just for clarity for the general public?
I don't want to water down history. I don't want to water down history. I think that's another problem our society has today. We don't water down other people's history, so I don't want to water down mine.
I'll move that we support Jason in his recommendation for naming of that, and take it forward to the other two partners and see if it flies. Just a suggestion, but I'll put it on the floor so that, or if you want to put it on there,
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Jason, you requested a discussion on speed limit on paved roads.
Yeah, it's just a request for information, probably. Could I get admin to have a list of all paved roads from that have been built in the last 10 years and the engineer's recommendation on the speed limit on all of those roads? And I would just like it to be, could I add it to the 28th planning and priorities, Alan? It's full. April 4th? Okay, thank you. That's the only thing I had. Just, I would like to see consistency across all of our paved roads, so we don't have one being 70, then to 80, then to 90, and then others to be 100. I want consistency across the board for my ratepayers. So I will add that to the April 4th planning and priorities.
And staff will bring some of the background on rationale for some of the varying speed limits as well, because my understanding is it's not just the type of road, it could be access points on the road and things like that. Recommendations. Okay, so we'll have that come back for information. Before our 10:30, let's have a look at the correspondence that was circulated in the package. There was a letter from the Village of Rockyford regarding CRISP funding, the SEWA announcement for the grant funding, some Fortis information on distribution rates, a letter from the Village of Rockyford regarding fire service agreement, and some minutes from the CMRB. Does anybody have any questions? Should we do that separate? I listed it as a separate. If not, can we have a motion to adopt the correspondence? Thanks, Scott. All in favor? There was also correspondence from Marigold Library System circulated regarding the Freedom to Read Week. And it's encouraging us to declare Freedom of Read Week for February 24th to March 2nd.
If we wanted, we could declare a week for every different thing in the world. I don't think it's really necessary.
I'm going to ask the same question I ask every year when this comes up. Freedom to Read Week is February 24th, March the 2nd. Do I need permission to read every week after that or before that? I don't understand why they do these things. What's the
So the focus for this campaign is to highlight the censorship that has happened in reading materials historically. So it's not just about reading, it's about the fact that, and it even goes to like your note about kind of washing out history, is there have been reading materials that have been taken out of libraries or removed or not
Yeah, but this
been
isn't
allowed.
going to change those liberal attitudes.
It just raises awareness. So I will put a motion on the floor that Wheatland County would declare Freedom to Read Week for February 24th to March 2nd, 2019. Discussion. I know it doesn't. It's just to raise awareness, that's all. Any questions or discussion?
Can we not just say we agree with the Freedom to Read Week, but we would rather see it Freedom to Read? Like, why? I still don't understand why you designate 1 week for it. If you're going to, I would say for the year, for the next 10 years, for whatever. I don't know. That's just me.
We're just arguing to argue. We're just arguing to argue.
It's just an awareness, just like for different things, they have awareness campaigns to bring awareness to it, and they do it in the schools and the libraries. I actually won the Freedom to Read Week, like the display, and it went to Gleason Library. So it's just to raise awareness, that's all. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, thank you. All right. We will, I think we'll actually just take a 2-minute break because I just, well, it's almost 10:30. Okay, we will move on to Township Road 250 paving program. There is an RFD with some background information about the paving program from the last years from 2016 through to current. As well, council had several letters that were circulated via email or this morning printed. We had an email on behalf of Harwood Farms from or a letter received via email from Harwood Farms from Merv Harwood. We also had a letter from Barry Hilton on behalf of Hiltona Holdings. We also had a letter circulated to council from Joseph and Patty Van Bavel on behalf of Van Bavel Farms. We also had a letter from Alan Dugan and 2 letters from Paul Damon on behalf of M&R Damon Farms Limited. Council indicated earlier that everybody had had an opportunity to read those letters. Discussion, council's wishes.
I just want to state that this is not something that this council did. I just want to state that this council kind of followed through with previous council's ideas. We have a history of the maps here, and the thought process behind it was there was an attachment to number 1 via Range Road 245, which we all know is a high collision location. So that was the process behind the thought process behind this. As far as notification goes, I was under the assumption that some people had been involved in it before, so obviously not. So now we're at this point now, we've already, we're working towards being more open and honest, and being that you have this amount of information here, I think we need to review this for sure. And that's my statement at the moment. I don't want to, I'd like to open it up for more discussion. We've heard I always like to hear both sides, and I don't want to pit anybody against anybody, but there's been a thought process behind this, and I'd like to research that a little bit more. and get some more public engagement in it. And your letters definitely have been heard, and we've listened to them. And that was the thought process behind where we got to today.
Would council consider hearing from the ratepayers that would like to speak? Are there any ratepayers that would like to speak to council? If you don't mind just coming to the mic, staff will help push the button, and then you just need to state your name. Thanks, Mike. Good morning.
Hi, everyone. Good morning to council members and county employees, as well as our fellow taxpayers and residents that are in attendance today. My name is Paul Damon. My family farms M&R Damon Farms, and we live on Township Road 250 between Range Roads 244 and 243. Two of the letters that you've read are from me, of course, and so you have my concerns there. I guess the reason I'm here today is just to protest the paving of 250, and my family and many other farmers who live along 250 or farmers that use 250 are concerned about the negative effects that paving will have on our farm businesses, farm property, residents, and foremost the safety of our families and employees. All of my concerns are in my letter that I've already sent to council, and I know many of you have already read it. Most of all, we are concerned about the lack of transparency and communication that the county council employees had with the adjacent landowners, as well as other residents that the paving of 250 will affect. We're concerned about the amount of tax dollars that were to be spent, roughly $1 million per mile, and I think that number is pretty accurate, as well as the costs already incurred without so much as a public meeting. I guess in closing, we're opposed to this project moving forward without proper consultation, information, and dialogue with those directly affected. I remind County Council and its employees that ultimately you work for the taxpayers and residents of Wheatland County. There is no excuse for the events that have taken place regarding this issue, and we would ask for a review of county policies and the actions of county employees that contributed to this fiasco so that it will not be repeated in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming in, Mr. Damon. Are there other ratepayers that would like to address council, please?
Hi, my name's Doug Van Vertigen, and I live just west and or north and west of Strathmore, but close to 250. And my concerns are the narrowing of the road. If you know how much narrower it would be when it's paved, probably 4 to 6 feet, I'm guessing. And then also, when Councillor Shirley Reinhardt was trying to continue Range Road 254 on, which we badly needed to haul grain from, which meets up with Range Road 250, there was only 2 complaints not to have it, so she said it did not go through because of those 2 complaints. So I'm wondering, as being against the 250 and even Range Road 245, if you have any complaints, how can you move forward with this proposed paving when people are against it? Getting back to Range Road 254 there, it's only about 1/8 of a mile that needs to be completed to finish the road off, and that's already set a precedent, I think, for you guys not continuing that road on. How can you do this without our approval? Thanks for your time.
Thank you for coming in. Is administration able to speak to the width of the road?
So through the chair, we plan on constructing this to a 9-meter paved top. We plan on constructing this road to a 9-meter paved top. I can't say without looking at the design what the existing width of that is at the current state. And sorry, just to speak to the notification process. So we do have a public participation policy that speaks to how we engage the landowners in these sort of things. We did have multiple meetings for other road construction programs this fall and in the winter, and we were in the means, as you see in your council package here, of developing the participation meeting for this coming March here. So just a little background on where we're at with that.
Mr. Damon?
I guess just question, Mike, on that. The map we looked at was that the paving was slated for this summer, 2019. I'm just wondering why we waited till now to have a meeting. Why hasn't this meeting taken place before? From what I can see, there's been $13,000 spent already on this road. That's what's on your website anyway. I don't know what you've done for surveying or the time you put in, but never consulted landowners. Shouldn't that have been the first part of the project, was consulting us to see if this could actually go through, or was something that we wanted? Shouldn't that be part of the first part of the process? Maybe that's, you know, part of something that needs to be looked into for future projects like this one.
So Mr. Damon, just in response to that, just prior to this, we had an RFD for a public participation policy regarding these types of meetings that are kind of more to inform ratepayers about decisions that have been made and what council had started to discuss, and then we decided to defer until you guys were here so that you could be included in the conversation, is that we need to discuss the possibility of having a more formal process for engaging ratepayers in discussion when we're doing our transportation plans. And I would like, an idea that I had is potentially an open house where we're looking at the entire transportation plan, not just a specific road in isolation, but where the county would be, ratepayers would be notified that we're looking at our transportation plan, we're opening that up and discussing it, and then we can invite ratepayers, we can publicize kind of a draft of what we're considering, and then we could invite ratepayers to come in to discuss that, to provide feedback like we've received from you in regards to this project. I did want to speak to the comment about complaints. Everything that we decide in council chambers, somebody complains about essentially. Like there's always going to be people that disagree with the decisions that we make. Our challenge and our job is to take the perspectives of all of our ratepayers, try and differentiate what is the sometimes vocal minority, and I'm not suggesting that you are a vocal minority. We respect our egg producers, and I absolutely respect that this whole municipality has been, the foundation of it is agriculture. It's the biggest provider of jobs and things like that. It's a huge economic contributor to our municipality, and we recognize that. But in all of our decisions, there's always different perspectives that we need to take and integrate, listen to, and then make these decisions. A concern that I have is that we haven't necessarily been engaging enough in that conversation before we make the decision. So I don't know if council wants to talk about that now, or if there's other ratepayers that would like to speak first, but we were going to have that discussion about how we can do a better job with that prior to the decision being made.
I'd just like to add something to what you said there. When you lump all the roads into one and have one big meeting, you water down the issues of the people that particular road affects. So I know you guys are doing construction on 243 north of 250, north of 252. We do a lot of business up that road. We have adjacent property. There's probably about 10 cars a day go up that road. That's it, 10 cars a day. So for you to have a meeting concerning, you know, other residents of the county in regards to that road, when most county residents will never travel that road. I think by not having each road individually done, you water it down. So this is a major road in the county. It's a major road for farmers. We transport large equipment, cattle, grain, other commodities up and down this road. We have the number one, which is not good for moving, slow-moving equipment. It's very dangerous. Highway 564, Highway 21, and 817. From personal experience, trying to make a left turn with a combine, and you're trying to make a left turn and you're watching your rearview mirror to make sure that trucker's going to stop and let you make that left-hand turn. I don't know how many times that somebody would have been injured or killed because we weren't paying attention to that oncoming traffic, where it's their responsibility to stop for us. You know, by paving this road, I think you're just going to make that problem worse. We already have 564 that's 8 miles north of the number one. We have number one, 564, 817 and 21. There's absolutely no need to have that road paved. No need whatsoever. You know, I think the biggest concern you have from non-farming residents is the dust. You know, I would say that you guys are a little late getting your dust control out. I know that we've been started harvest when you guys are still doing dust control. You know, we're talking middle of August. Like, I think dust control needs to get on in June or late May. You know, I think you guys dropped the ball on that. You know, quite frankly, you know, the way that this has been dealt with, I come in, I hear from a rumor that the road's being paved. I come in and talk to Mike, and he was very good, very transparent. I have no problem with Mike whatsoever, but he shows me the map, and it's slated for 2019 paving, means this summer. Why haven't we had this meeting? Like, why are we here today? It makes no sense. You guys as councillors, I know that you're newly elected, but, you know, you dropped the ball, and so did employees of the county, in my opinion.
Thank you for that. Are there other ratepayers that would like to speak?
My apologies, give me 1 second. Okay, good morning. I'm sure all of you know me, but I'll state for the record, Rex Harwood, Wheatland County, ex-councillor. So there was some discussion about this road actually being on our road program prior to today, which it was. Not to the extent that I think that is in the program today, but I did find 2016 records of the road paving program, and it was on there. The thing with typically, usually a 10-year road paving program was, it was 10 years. And we knew that those roads would move from year to year, so you really didn't get too excited about them until maybe this, you know, the second year prior to the project, if that was going to be actually realized that was going to happen. You know, there's a road at 270, which is goes west of Rosebud. And so that was slated for 2019 of this year, and it's gone. The road that we're talking about, the Fire Guard Road, it was actually on the 10-year plan for 2020. So a road gets dropped and one gets bumped up, and I'm not sure where that comes from, if that was approved through council. You guys made the changes. Why did you drop the road? My understanding from Councillor Kessler, who phoned the other day from his holidays, was that he did not know that the road out at Rosebud was deleted or skipped over. So I just don't know where that process is coming from, and the fact that, why does that happen, right? And why did this road get jumped? My understanding was that Range Road 245, I believe, was slated to be paved, which is kind of what brought Mr. Paul Damon in to speak today. The discussion was he and his father had signed easements to get that road work done heading north, and then all of a sudden that road was abandoned and then set for the Fire Guard this year. So I guess my question is why, if somebody could answer that. So, you know, I think really, I don't really see the reason to push through and have this road done this year. If it ends up being done, I think bare minimum, we need to have the process to happen. I don't think having a consultation in March and then going ahead with the project is really fair to have that, go that route. So I would ask that that road not be done. Many of you that knew me in my counselor position, I did take a very strong lead in the agriculture portion of my divisions and Olive County. And, you know, we did have an acreage subdivision come in, and the comments were made that we need to subdivide these parcels so that we get more tax dollars. Well, if your job is to sit there and divide the county into acreages for tax dollars, I mean, I don't see how, you know, it makes no sense to me. I mean, so you needed the tax dollars from one more acreage that's about $3,300 a year, and then, you know, like I said, or like I was, the thing with that is if it's $1 million a mile, and I don't know, $1 million a mile is about the rule of thumb when I was in council to pave the road, and I don't know if that was right from the dirt up or the resurfacing, if that changed. But just think of the amount of tax dollars it takes to pay for that road. We had a development at Nameka, same thing. It was slated to go through. Part of the agreement was that they would pave the road. They said yes. They got the development approved, and then they turned around and appealed it to the province. The province says, no, you don't have to build that. Well, there wasn't enough houses being built there to pay for that road in the next 10 years. So I guess, you know, from me, you know, used to sitting in that chair, I'm looking at it going, if I've got enough people opposed to it and don't want to spend the money, then why spend the money? I mean, we can go to dust abatement through other means, and which we've done on Range Road 245, and Paul alluded to you know, August, but I know that actually it actually does happen in the spring, and then they do a second coat in the fall. So I think sometimes that's maybe you see them doing it in the fall, but it actually has been done in the spring. So I mean, honestly, I think everybody would just appreciate if we just kind of took a step back and just said, okay, you know what, we're not going to rush this through, and we'll have these engagements, and then everybody gets to say. I know you guys are busy, but there is a couple comments that were made in council this morning, and I just want to, since I'm already here, I'm going to speak to it. Is that okay, Madam Chair? So Councillor Wilson had asked about this morning about the paved road speed limits. And this was one of my thorns in my side when I was on council. So that, and I'm guessing because it's part of your area, is the Nameka Road is 90 kilometers. Oh, that's Amber's area, sorry. So it's 90 kilometers. So then you have Range Road, the one that goes to Rockyford, 233, that's 100, and then it's 80.
Mr. Harwood, I'm actually just going to interrupt you. Let's just stick to the Township Road 250 for right now, just out of respect for the ratepayers that are here for that.
Okay,
And then,
well then I'll make it very, very short. I'll just
Okay.
finish up on that comment. So that was brought into us to have it set for 90 because of what an engineering report or something said. We had approved the Duck Lake Road at 100. My argument is if we're going to build roads, why are we building them at $1 million a mile to go 90 kilometers an hour? You might as well build them for 100. And okay, so anyways, we'll leave that alone. Okay, so just so you know where I was coming from. So, yeah. and I mean, yeah, I'm not going to go into that. So anyways, back to the township, to the fire guard. You know, I don't know if you guys know, but the rumors around this fire guard road are getting to be huge. We're talking that I'm hearing rumors that this road is to be paved from the number 9 highway all the way to Standard to the 840. So just so you know, I don't know where the scope of this goes, but if that's not what your intent is, sometimes the road is paved with good intentions. And what's going to happen is you get it to the 21, and then eventually it is going to get to the 840. And I agree with Paul. I don't feel with the 564 and the 8 Mile, we've got lots of routes around Strathmore. I think there's more high traffic areas close to town, the Slaughterhouse Road, Range Road 245 that could probably be looked at. And truthfully, and the number one point I'm going to make here today is this is a major haul road. It's a major traffic road for combine swathers, trucks, things of that nature. Many of the farmers north and south of that road use that for their main trail and then dispatch from there. So that road to me is something that keeps everybody safe. If you pave it, it really adds to the safety issue. So appreciate your time today.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Harwood.
So through the chair to one of your comments, Mr. Harwood, was when you talk about the acreages and the tax money that's made off them, they're a cost in the municipality. We do collect taxes off them like we do agriculture, but the money we collect off them does not pay for the roads that go in front of they're a loss. The land that when we rebuild roads, it's usually at the request of landowners, not at the councillors. That they're brought to the table by the councillors because of pressure from some of the landowners, whether it's a rebuild or paving, whichever it is, and most of it's for access and because of weights. But we are an agricultural council, like you said. We always have been, and we probably always will be into the future, unless something changes. But we are not the one. Once an acreage owner comes in and they live on a road, they have rights just like everybody else. And when they come in here and ask for certain things, we listen to them just like we do everybody else. And we don't want to pit agriculture against acreage owners, but the acreage owners would not be in this municipality, and we would not have changed our land use bylaws to allow them in here if it wasn't for pressure from the landowners. It's the ag landowners that have put the pressure on us to change the bylaws so that so that they can sell off their land and get acreage. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. But it is landowners that sell the land, not the county. And once those people are in here, they have the same rights as anybody else. So when we look at our roads, we look at it from all the aspects, not just from one or two. So, and hearing your concerns over the payment of that road I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're raising those concerns. As out my way, I've been sitting here for 27 years, and I've never had a bunch of ratepayers come in and complain about getting a pavement put in place. So it's new to me. I've got lots of roads out there that need work. So I can go out there and build roads anytime I want, anywhere. We've got about 1,000 miles behind us at any one time. So if you really don't want it, I'm not going to sit here and say it has to happen.
Are there other ratepayers that would like to speak? If you can just take the podium. Mr. Damon, I'll just have you take the podium. Thank you. And if you can just state your name for the record.
Good morning. I'm Robert Damon. I would like all the council members to go up to my farm and have a look of our concern. Sitting in this desk, you cannot imagine the hardship we're going to have. We breed 1,000 cows. We move those cattle on the roads and stuff. It's in the letter. But as a council, all of you should have a look at that. You have acreage people outnumbering the farmers, right? And I don't know if that's happening because we don't run or what. I would love to be on council, but I moved to town, and that's the silliest thing in the world. I still should be able to be a council member. I own 30 quarters. I pay taxes in this county. I can't vote. I mean, it's really backwards. But please, all council members, go have a look at our situation.
Thank you, Mr. Damon. Please.
Hi, I'm Ken Hilton, brother of the Barry, part of Hilton Holdings. I just just reiterate all the comments like Paul and them made and everything. But anyways, I'm not going to go over them again. They're all very good concerns. I just want to make one point that the process going forward, whether this goes through or not, which I hope it doesn't, but anyways, that's besides the point, that there has to be better communication to the adjacent landowners in the simple form even of a letter, not just putting it in the paper saying we're going to have a consultation of all county residents. I think that would be a major step forward for any of us. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hilton. Sure.
Hi, just getting back to number 1 and Range Road 245, I can't see how Department of Highways would allow you to have a turnout, a major turnout off of number 1 when they're trying to get rid of all the turnouts on number 1 for safety issues. There's already been 2 people killed there in the past because of that hill, as most of you know that. And it's just not a safe area to have a major turnout off of number 1 highway. And I want to know if number 1 highway is going to have farther turnouts like on Highway 24 and further up. If it's going to be built like that, that would help, but it still would not be good. And then also getting back to Ben Armstrong's comment about landowners or farmers wanting acreages. We never did want acreages, especially not 4 in each place, which just adds pure hell to traffic and fighting between the acreage owners. And it was never a good idea right from day one. And most farmers would agree on that. I don't know where he ever come with that comment that we wanted acreages for money, but it's not a good way to raise money. Thanks.
I never said you wanted them. I said we didn't sell the land, you did.
We didn't want it. Nobody wanted it. There were laws that let it happen.
Are there other ratepayers that would like to speak to Township Road 250?
I would just like to, if there is, go ahead. If there's not, I will go ahead. I'm just looking at the paving program map, the one that was new when we just got onto council. We didn't have any say on it, and it was the paving of Range Road 245 to Township 250, and that was to be done in 2019. And then from 245 west on 250 Fire Guard to 817 was to be done in 2020. And then west on the township to, I don't know, I can't, that's very small writing, I apologize, was to be done in 2021. So, and looking at this current map that's on the screen compared to the one we have now, there's a large number of paved roads that were taken off. And as I consider my job to try to save money and make the county more accessible for my ratepayers as well. So I don't know the total miles that we were able to cut while adding the entire 250. Just around Strathmore, it was going to be 2 miles, and then we got rid of the 261 or 250, Range Road 250. I can't see that on the very bottom map. Sorry. The dark blue, 2 miles east of the, 2 miles west of the corner there. Up and down about, 6 miles? 8 miles? 8 miles? So I think as a new council, we were able to cut a large amount of paved roads in the west, which saved quite a bit of money, while still, in my opinion, and I totally understand where you guys are coming from, as our home section was divided by the number one a fair number of years ago, but we were still on that section, and it did change the way we farmed. So I do understand where you guys are coming from, but I also have to take in consideration the ease of access to the city, because that is our main node, and to attract businesses so we can keep taxes low here, we have to have good infrastructure that makes sense for transportation. And I totally agree that we didn't follow through on our public participation and our transparency. That was, I'm not arguing with that, but I'm just looking at saving money and making it easier for my ratepayers to get around. There's a number of large producers in the Cheadle area that have dealt with paved roads for the last number of years, and they say you learn to live with it. I understand where you guys are coming from, but my job is to save money, and I think by paving the 250 from 21 to the Lyelta Road, we were able to save at least 6 miles, I'm looking at around Strathmore. So I'm quite happy with that. I understand it's, and perhaps we could do more consultation, but I think I'm happy with what has been decided.
Just some things that were brought up here. 245, when you'd mentioned about upgrading it, there's two different components to that. One was the road base itself had to be done, and there were some wetlands problems with that, which is why it's not really been, it's been shelved, not really shelved, but we have to get those wetlands agreements put through first. But also previous council had wanted that paved. It made no sense to this council from the exactly what you said, about the collisions, about the speed access, I can't remember the name of the speed lanes that to get up to speed. So the thought process behind this was we already have a developer that was on the hook for paving 250 west of the Lyelta Road. They're going to put a contribution there. That's in the development agreement that was done a long time ago. That would take people to Highway 9, which takes them to an overpass, which makes it safer for everybody to get on there. Also, there is a grain terminal over there as well. So that was some of the thought process behind there as well. It made sense for us to basically take those two accesses that go down to number one and straighten it out and get a corridor that gets people over to that. And that was at least my thought process at the time. So definitely public input. I mean, I value you guys' opinion. I'm glad you're here. It's great. I will own the fact, even though it wasn't solely my problem, that we need to do more public consultation, and we're going to make that change. Because, you know, this, to me, this is not a bad problem to have. You have people that don't want you to spend millions of dollars. That's not a bad thing. But I will tell you this. We have other councillors here that this money that is budgeted for, it will go to other areas. And I'd hate to miss out on our area for improvements that we can make, and maybe we can come to a compromise. That's all I got to say.
I guess the one question that was never really put forward properly, like by any of us or answered by any of you, is why? What is the reason for paving it? Why? Like why? What previous council? If you have any information on, or you as council now, we really would like to know.
Well, yeah, basically what I said before. We came in as the new councillors, the few of us, and we looked at the previous plan that was there, and it didn't make sense to us. I thought there was consultation and the thought process put into there so that we could continue and make it a better version of what that was there, and that's where I'm coming from. What previous council has done, how they got there, I can't speak to that. I don't know. But the corridor, like I say, for my personal thing was exactly getting access to number one. They've told us several times. The more access they put, they're talking about having side roads at some point, like Interstate 15, where you have to go down to an overpass. So, you know, down the road, number one may not be that easy to get onto. So this would be the best way to get people to a corridor to get to that road where there is an overpass. Because if Highway 24 gets built, to my understanding, more traffic, I think we have to put money in for an overpass, and that's in the neighborhood of 60 million or something, 50 million, that the county has to put into to get that an overpass put in there. So that's the thought process behind this, was maybe we should spend that money in our own area instead of putting an overpass that's for international travel, I guess you'd say, or cross-Canada travel.
Sorry for this, but the rationale behind paving 250, there, to any of us here, I don't even, maybe to some of you, it just, there's, the rationale is not there. There's not a Muirfield on there. There's not a terminal for extra, to have extra traffic on there now, unless you're planning some kind of a development like a Muirfield off of 250, which I don't believe you are. But the rationality behind paving it, there is no rationale. I don't see it. I don't think any of us see it. So unless it's one of the things, like say, like a city of Calgary puts another pedestrian overpass over the Bow River just so people don't have to walk an extra 2 blocks, instead of so people don't have to drive another 4 miles to get to the 564, is if that is the rationale, then that's stupidity. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that Scott took some ownership in, you know, the county dropping the ball on this. Haven't heard anybody else that had enough guts to accept some responsibility, so I applaud Scott on that. I guess what it comes down to primarily is when we live so close to the road is the safety concerns for ourselves, our employees, fellow county residents, as well as the people who be on that road too. You know, it's just not safe for anybody to be having a large volume of traffic. And Jason, I can appreciate, you know, you wanting to have these paved roads at 100K, but you know yourself that people don't go 100K. If it's posted 100, they're going 110. Okay. And like my dad mentioned, come for a drive by the farm, have a look. Like, you know, in the old days, the bylaws were different. Our house is too close to the road. We have a building that's too close to the road. I know there's several other residences along that road at Morton's is too close. It's just not good. Like, it's not good. It's not safe, you know, and that at the very least should stop this project. You know, what's enough? Is it enough when somebody gets killed? Is that enough? How many people have been killed on the 24 because they didn't build that road wide enough? Like, I know myself that it doesn't have any shoulder. So your combine wheel is on the yellow line or in the ditch, and the other one is, and your header with the small header is out in traffic. You know, does someone have to get killed? We can't undo it. Once it's paved, it can't be undone. So are we going to pave it, create a dangerous situation, ultimately have deaths occur on the highway, increase in crime? You know, is that something you're willing to live with?
Thank you for your comments.
Scott, like you mentioned, eventually they want to pave it all the way to number 9, 250. Well, that's another intersection that will not be good, because already 564 and number 9 is a death trap there also. So you're creating another bad intersection again for people to get killed on. There's multiple injuries and deaths at 564, so we don't need another intersection that'll cause that problem. And you have to all as councillors think about 245 and number 1. One more death there, that's on your heads if you let that highway go through there, the paved road. Just think about that.
I just wanted to clarify that the paving of 245 wasn't in this later. It was taken off.
It's off.
Yeah, it was off as of when we put this plan together, for that very reason, Doug. And I want to clarify as well, so west of the Lyalta Road on 250, the developer has a commitment to put money into paving that, and that was at the request of that development that was, how many years old is Muirfield now? 12? So there's a commitment there that is, there's going to be pavement there at some point from the Lyalta Road going west. Whether it stops at Rocky View, which would make no sense, but Rocky View has said they would commit to continuing that through to Louis Dreyfus where they brought that stub in. So there will be that done, and that was previously, committed to,
It's Merv Harwood. I was listening to all the conversation and stuff, and I was just thinking about driving west past Falls, and you come over that rise. If you're traveling a good clip with a heavy load, you won't have time to stop if there is something going on down the hill. I think you have to go out there and visually see it.
Thank you for that comment.
Sorry, I want to keep my comments to a minimum, so I'll try and make this really fast. You're talking about process today, and I think that's what it is. And I think the easiest thing to do is say, not build it, and let's revisit this and see where the need comes from. But that is my concern, though, is the overall process. So like I was trying to say before, we have a road over in Rosebud that was on the pavement for 2018 or 19, I think it was 19. It's not on there anymore, but this one is. And so, when I ask a counselor about it, he doesn't know why. It makes me think, well, what? So who decided that it was going to be changed? So that's my concern. And sorry I have to bring it up out of context, but the short road program was canceled, and I had commitments on that short road program that I had emailed yourself and Jason about to make sure that was dealt with. I don't know if the ratepayer has contacted the county saying anything, but
It was our previous agenda item, actually.
yeah, it was? Okay, so I missed that. So it's dealt with, and I'll leave it at that. But that's, those are concerns, right? Because, as a counselor, you make commitments that you feel will be followed through. And unfortunately, I was not able to run in this election. So, you feel some sort of responsibility that those things still happen. So I appreciate your time today.
Thanks for the comments.
Just another question to the crowd, if I may. Who is on the east side of the 817 and who's on the west? Just out of curiosity. I know Van Vertigens are your east, west. Yeah, which one's used more for ag, would you say?
I'm just going to ask that comments be made at the microphone. It just helps because
sorry.
we video
worry
our
about it now.
meetings, and then it can be confusing if people hear half of
Sorry,
the
that's
question
my
and not
fault.
the answers. No, that's okay. Sir?
Yeah, Ray Van Babel. Yeah, our main concern too is the safety in that road. And especially by Paul's there. If you come over that hill, you should just all drive by there. It's pretty dangerous. Even when you come over the hill now, you should be going about 60 kilometers an hour because you don't know who's pulling out of them driveways. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I'll answer to
Thanks.
Jason's question there to us farmers of who use it. That, it's not used just by us, half dozen of farmers here. There must be 20 to 30 farmers. There's farmers from as far east as Standard that do land. Have land in West, and they use that road because it's a very good wide road, and for the majority of just about all the Fireguard Road it's well maintained and everything because it's wide and the visibility and everything is very good, and that's one of our major concerns is paving it is the narrowing of that for the farm machinery and also livestock. Thank you.
Thank you.
My mic's still on. The only issue that I think was brought up also when we talked about paving this road was the access from Lyalta or Lakes of Muirfield to Strathmore. There is 160 residents there?
500, sorry.
Yeah,
160,
homes.
174, I think the houses right now.
Yeah.
Build out is close to 600 homes. Yeah.
So we do have a large amount of ratepayers, and I understand, as an ag person, I don't want somebody over another person, but as a counselor, I have to treat everybody equally. And they do need better access to the town. And as we've heard, unless we want to put in a overpass on the 24 or another one just south there on the Lyelta Road itself, we have to have easy access, not the number one, for those residents to Strathmore. So we could probably maybe work out a compromise somehow, which I don't, for me to say compromise is a rare thing, but there is other things there.
I'm sorry, I don't want to beat this dead horse. I want to move on, but you've got the 564, and then you say you don't access without the number one highway. I mean, I don't think that's a valid argument. And I mean, to have the 564 where it is and then the 250 to be paved, I mean, we don't need paved roads 4 miles apart. I mean, you can't have everything. You can't have everything. The big thing, and I was just thinking about it on that 250 road, if I actually sat down and looked at an aerial view, the 250 is the access for farmers east to west in the county, because take any other road in between the highways or on that side or on that side, there is almost nowhere in this county that has that access on a gravel road except for the 250. So there's basically no bridges that I can recall or any real safety concerns that I can think of. So that's why I think that the residents are in here fighting for that. So, I mean, those residents at Lyelta, they have that access on 564, and I think number one is still a good route to go, and if they don't want to choose that, that's fine. Here's my one suggestion would be, instead of putting the money towards the fire guard, maybe upgrade and widen 564, and that might really help traffic and put some shoulders on it and make that road maybe a better road. And I think that might be a really good solution. But sorry for coming up for the third time, but thanks again.
I had one question for administration. It's just more a point of information for going forward with paving. There was one of the concerns brought forth by the ratepayers was a banning of the pavement. Can you just clarify that point?
Thanks. Through the chair, there would be no ban of this. We don't build these paved structures to be banned. Potentially they would be 90% the first year, just to ensure there's no blowouts, but after that it's 100% ban free.
Just through the chair, just a little history. When council first came up, because these guys weren't here at that time, and Glenn's not here, so I guess Alan wasn't here, Mike was maybe here. But anyways, when this first came up and we started looking at paving roads in the county, we had a bunch of chip seals and we were looking at that, and they were a bigger issue out of my country than any paved road ever would be, because once you put a chip seal on, you can't use it. And the landowners out in our country were landlocked because they couldn't use it in the busy seasons of the year. So council made a conscious decision to stop doing chip seals. We wouldn't replace any chip seals, and if we did, it would be replaced with a non-banned surface so that they could be used all year round by the ag industry. And at that time, we had a real busy oil and gas industry, so they could use these roads without going on to gravel roads and destroying them. So that's where it came from. But part of the thinking around that was when we went through the municipality, all of Wheatland County looked at it, the road grid was we looked at it and said, if everybody can be within at least 4 miles of a paved surface, that should be sufficient. So if you look around at what you're doing, if you don't pave that road, you're still within 4 miles of a paved surface. North, south, east, or west, either way, you're still within 4 miles. Out in our country, that's what we look at. As long as you've got 4 or 5 miles, then we'll look at doing some pavement out there to get you to a paved surface, and you're gone, and that drives the traffic away from the gravel and puts it onto the pavement. And that's what we were looking at when we first set it up. Once we started doing paving and we got over in this country, then we got more pressure from some of the residents for more pavement on some of the other roads. So staff has been doing their best to try and figure out how to make this work. But as far as I'm concerned, we can stay with the 4 mile. It works good out my way. And the Fire Guard Road is has historically been our road for moving machinery back and forth across the county too, because that was the only one we could get on at any time of the year and move our equipment back and forth. So just some history.
Thank you. Are there any other ratepayers that would like to speak first? Comments?
I'm going to put a motion forward that we put this on hold until we review, excluding 250 from 264 to 270, being that the commitment was made by the developer already, and I don't want to get that developer to shirk that responsibility, because that was a condition of the subdivision of Lakes and Muirfield. I have no problem with reviewing it, whatever level council decides, open houses, whatever, but I think we definitely need to have some public input on this and come up with a different solution or completely abolish it. I can't speak for that yet, so. Very long motion, I'm sure.
No, I think we got the gist of it. So we have a planning and priorities meeting April 4th. Would that be something where you'd want to have a further discussion on that? Perhaps?
If there's room on the agenda in April 4th, or we can bring it forward.
Yeah, there's room on the agenda.
I would safely say that we're probably not going to do anything this year.
If you would like to,
Yeah.
if you want to state that in your motion, that'd be great.
So as I work. To take it off the 2019, I'll make a motion to take this off the 2019 paving program upon review and input from the residents, excluding 250 from 264 to 270. Not that it's going to be done then, but the developer still will be on the hook for that. And further to discuss it at our next available planning and priorities meeting.
Discussion of the motion on the floor.
And we still have to come up with some kind of formula for how we're going to engage.
I was
public
going to,
input.
look at a second motion.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Motion is carried. And if we can just clarify that we'll be looking at reviewing our public engagement process also at that planning and priorities meeting for more than just Township Road 250 for our transportation program in general. I want to thank everybody for coming in and for contacting us and bringing this information to us. Thank you.
Government needs a check and balance.
I think we finished. We just have our closed session. If somebody wants to move to go in camera. Thanks, Donna. All in favor of going in camera? Motion's carried.